And hello, this is Jim Dawkins with Living Sacrifice Ministries. It's been a while since I've been with you to give a lesson, and I'm going to try to make this a little more regular than I have. One thing that drove me to be here today is not only that the Lord's been calling on me to do this more often, but also I did tell some of our ministry partners recently that I would be recording another message today, and it would be on YouTube and on our Facebook page for them by tomorrow. So having made this commitment to them, it kind of pushed me a little bit to have something up. Just to let you know, how much of a computer genius I am here. I went to set things up to do this, and since I do this alone, I couldn't figure out why my webcam wasn't working, and spent a good 10 minutes trying to figure it out. And being the computer phenomenon that I am, I realized that when you actually plug it in to the USB port, it does work better. So, good one for me for spending 10 minutes trying to figure out why this didn't work, simply because it was not plugged in. But onward we go. It's interesting how much time we spend in church listening to teachers and preachers dispel their wisdom, their knowledge, or what we at least assume is about the Bible. And how little time we seem to put into learning about or thinking about how to properly study the Bible ourselves. And that's what we're going to be doing today, is talking about the importance of actually studying the Bible on a regular basis ourselves. And we're going to look at some of the possible ways to make good study habits as part of your regular life, and also some things to avoid. Now, I will tell you this, everybody's going to have his or her own needs and their own schedules, their own things that will work, or things that they've tried. So I'm not saying this is going to give you a concise, one way is the only way, and don't try anything else or it's not going to work for you. But I will, at some point, be giving you some things to definitely try to steer clear of, because they can be bad things to fall into. But the things that I will point out have been tried and true by people who have actually written extensively about these things. And so first thing, where are we going to start? And that's, why do we study the Bible? And some questions that are often asked, when people this is brought up, why do I need to study? My pastor already studies the Bible, and he's preaching from it every Sunday. Basically, I go to church. I'm hearing the Word of God preached to me. Why do I need to? It's essentially, I sit there, my pastor tells me what I need to know, and I go home. Be like, why do I need to study medicine? My doctor's done it for me. Why do I need to learn how to fix my car? My mechanic does that for me. And it's not as simple as that. We're going to get into that in a moment. Another thing that people point out is, well, I'm not preparing to go into ministry, to be a pastor, to be a missionary, or to be a full-time church worker. Maybe I'm an accountant, I'm a banker, I'm an attorney, I work in an office, I'm a plumber. Why do I need to study the Bible? That's not part of what I do for a living. Or I'm not in Bible college myself or planning to go. And, okay, maybe you're not, but the flip side of that is we study the Bible because the Bible itself gives us reasons to. Psalm 119:11, we read, and David's writing this, he says, Thy word have I hid in mine heart, that I might not sin against thee. I mean, it's very clearly stated right here. The Bible is the blueprint for our lives. This right here is the law, the word, the guidebook for our lives. It's telling us in here what's right, what's wrong, what God expects from us, and I can't know what God expects from me, or allows or doesn't allow, if I don't open it up and read it for myself, if I don't open it up and study it for myself. Paul, in his writings to Timothy, in 2 Timothy 2:15, also says, "Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth." Keep in mind, Paul at this time in his ministry was an old man. He was at the end of his life. He had been highly revered and regarded, and was, in effect, turning the reins over to the much younger Timothy, who had just taken on a ministry and was a very young man. Earlier in his writings to Timothy, he had warned him not to let his youth intimidate him, and do not let people look down upon him because of his youth. One way he was able to do this was to be very, very well versed in God's Word. If I'm coming out, be it because I'm a young man or just a new Christian, or both, and I know the Word of God, I know it well, and I'm trying to come to you, I'm trying to present the gospel to you, whether I'm as a pastor or simply a neighbor or friend coming and talking to you, and I know this Word of God, and I know, and I can speak boldly and clearly and firmly about it, I have the confidence I need, the same way that a salesperson, when you go into a store, can present a product he knows about. The same way your doctor, when he's telling you about a diagnosis of a disease, can tell you with confidence, yes, I know this is what's wrong, yes, I know this is the proper way to go about treating it, and so on. If you're going to go tell somebody about Christ, if you're going to tell them how you believe in the Savior who's redeemed you, and you can back this up with Scripture you have read and studied, you are going to have a lot better foundation than somebody just, well, I heard it in church, so that's what I got to go on. Now, some people will say, well, I've read the Bible. Okay, well, that's fine. And reading the Bible is a good thing. It is something that I do daily. I don't say it to brag, I say it to make a point. The first time I started reading the Bible was shortly after I came to Christ. I was 12 years old. I had a copy of the New Testament only at that time. And I started reading a chapter a day. Yeah, that's what I was reading, just reading. And it can take many different forms. Some people will read, like I said, a chapter a day. Some people will read a chapter from the Old Testament, a chapter from the New Testament. There are a lot of different reading plans. Some that will allow you to read through the whole Bible in a year or 2 years. We'll take some, like several chapters from the Old and some from the New. And within a year's time, you'll read the whole thing. Different plans work differently. Finding one that works for you is kind of a personal thing for you to pray on. But I would say, do not let Bible reading replace Bible studying. It is amazing, though. I will tell you this: as many times as I've read the Bible now, and I don't know how many times I've read it all the way through, every time I read it, I find some little tidbit of something that I missed last time or that I forgot since last time. Keep in mind, I told you the first time I read it, I was 12. I'm almost 56 years old now. I went from being in, like 7th grade when I first read it to being 56 years old now. A lot of different things have transpired. I've gone from being not even a teenager yet, to being a teenager, to being a young adult, to being married, to being a young father, to being a grandfather. A lot of transitions, a lot of different changes, a lot of different things have happened in my life. And I may read the same section of the Bible different times in my life and said, wait a minute, I didn't see that last time. Well, maybe not. Excuse me. Maybe I read about a difficulty or a temptation in someone's life. But I'd never faced something like that yet, so I kind of brushed over it. Maybe I read about something in one of David's laments that didn't make sense to me when I was much younger. The much later I could say, oh yeah, I can understand this. Or the troubles of Job, or the praises of somebody, or so forth and so on. So this is why reading the Bible and then reading it again can help so much. But again, if you're reading through it completely, you'll be amazed how much you find when you read it again. Now, Bible study, which is what we're really here to talk about, is something that is going to be different. It means taking a subject or a book of the Bible and thoroughly examining this carefully for an extended period of time. There's not really a cut and dry, you study it for this length of time. The Bible study I'm in at church, the men's Bible study, is currently studying the book of Hebrews. We've been studying for a number of months. And we meet for an hour a week on Thursday mornings. And we might not get through more than a few verses in 1 week. I actually went to a men's conference once where we spent 3 days with speakers morning, noon, and night, speaking for 45 minutes to an hour each time, and covered 4 verses in one chapter of Psalms. So, now I'm not suggesting that you spend 6 hours on one section of one chapter of Psalms, but find something that you're going to study, whether it's a book of the Bible, whether it's studying prayer, whether it's studying forgiveness, whether it's studying something that's really weighing on your heart. Pray about this and be diligent in your study. There are there are study guides, study books written by very good, reputable people. I would suggest this though: do not rely too heavily on these, because while they can be good in group studies, if you have a strong Christian facilitator for these, doing them independently, if it's just you, particularly if you're a new Christian, can cause you to lean too heavily on the words of a man and get away from the Word of God itself. If, for example, I'm going to study the book of Romans, and I have my Bible and one man's commentary or study guide on the book of Romans, I have his one view on it. If I'm going to study the book of Romans and I have several sources, I'm probably better off studying it that way, unless, of course, I'm with a group of people and some very strong, well-grounded Christians who can help feed off of one another, and even find some things that maybe they may not even agree with the author of this book. But it's just my own view on that. Now, when to study the Bible can be an issue that different people, I've heard different views on. I've known some people who are just adamant about getting up first thing in the morning and having that be the first thing you do before anything else. And they won't budge from that at all. A friend of mine once pointed out that as soldiers in the army of God, and biblically we see Ephesians chapter 6 verses 11 through 18 talking about putting on the armor of God, and at least lists each piece of armor we're putting on, one at a time, and we're putting this armor on daily. He said a soldier doesn't put on his armor after he's in battle or after he goes home at the end of the day. He puts it on before the battle, which is why he very strongly believed a Christian should get up and have his devotion time, his study time in the morning before anything else. So he's girded up, he's armored, he's ready to go and face the day. And there are many people like that. Just as stretching before a workout prepares your body for rigors of exercise, and preparing yourself spiritually prepares you for the best of anything that's going to come at you. Now, other people, such as myself, prefer studying at the end of the day when things are quiet. Now, this allows me and others like me time to reflect on the day and how to connect what I'm reading or doing now with maybe what has happened, and also allows me to rest on the day as I'm sleeping, allows me to let God speak to me during the quietest time of my day. It does take away from the constraints of time, such as, well, gee, if I have to be to work at 9, or be to an appointment at 8, or be here then how much time do I have from the time I get up until I have to be somewhere? If I start my study time or my devotion time just in the evening and just let it move on until I feel I'm finished, I just let it go till God says, okay, we are finished here for the day. So essentially, there's not really a perfect time for everyone. Again, this will be personal. This will be between you and God, and also have to work around your own life. If you're a mom and you've got a husband and children, you may have a husband who's getting off to work, some children getting off to school, others who are at home. You may have that piece of time in the morning where you really can't commit to, and then a little downtime that you can set aside. Well, maybe there's a baby sleeping, or all the kids are up to school, but it's the middle of the day and it's all yours. Before kids come home from school and it all gets crazy again. It's entirely up to you. The key thing is it's a personal relationship between you and God, and the studying of His Word is something that is key. It is paramount. It is how you build an intimate relationship with, and it is not a relationship that ever, it is not a study that ever ends. And I'll tell you right now, from having fallen into this trap in my years as a Christian, the moment that time does stop, your relationship with God gets stagnant. He will not leave you. He will not forsake you. But your relationship gets stale. You start forgetting where you were. You start forgetting what you're supposed to be doing. You start drifting away and start turning to the things of the world, or start trying to recall where things were supposed to be. And that's not good or healthy for you as a Christian. So remember that. Get into the Word. And I'd love to hear any comments from anybody on this, questions about anything. If you enjoyed this message, please like this video, comment on it, subscribe to this channel, because there will be more things coming in the future. Also, check out the Living Sacrifice Ministries webpage as well. And we're also over on Facebook too. So check us out over there. God bless you very much. Okay.